What is up, you amazing people? It is I, Nima, and today I want to talk about a game that asks the question, how far would you go for a cure to save somebody you love? Yeah, today we're going to talk about Anno Munition. This game came out last week, but I was kind of busy, so things got a bit behind, but we're going to catch up. We're going to get there. And if you do like video game content, we try to get a video out at least every other day here. So please consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, please hit that like button, share, do all that internet stuff. I need it to grow bigger and more destructive. I don't know. Anyway, Anno Mutationem, which by the way is the last time I'm going to try to say the entire name of the game because I'm really not sure how to pronounce Mutationem. Whatever. But you play as Anne Flores, which is also the name of my cousin. And honestly, she kind of looks like the lead character in this game. So there's a little, I don't know, there's a little meta for me, if you will. Anyway, you play as her. She is sort of like an agent for a military subcontract group. You take on just different cases that like the police and the government won't handle. And so you have some skills and some abilities that say the average person doesn't have. Well, you also have something else that the average person doesn't have, is you have an illness that is incredibly rare. And it actually causes Anne to sometimes hallucinate, to hear things that aren't there, see things that aren't there, and sometimes to just outright collapse. Well, her brother Ryan wanted to find the cure for Anne, and apparently it's out there, and he knows that it's out there. So he goes on this mission to try to find the cure, but while he's doing that, he himself ends up in a lot of trouble and ends up with some nefarious people and quite a lot of danger. So as Anne, you're basically now tracking your brother down to try to rescue him from whatever he may have gotten himself involved in. Now, the story from here takes on a lot of self-discovery for Anne, as well as learning more about the corrupt underbelly that is the world she lives in. Now, the story itself, though, I gotta be honest, was kind of hard to follow. The pacing was a little bit off, and there'd be quite a lot of time in between actual plot points that kept you engaged in the story. I didn't really love the way that they kind of mapped all this out. It was enough to keep me engaged and to keep me interested in it, but if I'm being honest, it definitely wasn't like the main feature I was interested in, especially since a lot of the side quests were done really well. They were paced right, they had a lot of intrigue, there was a good amount of like banter and back and forth that you understood, and that really kept you engaged. So it was like they knew how to write a good storyline, they just had problems with the main storyline. It was almost like they themselves kind of went back and forth on how to do it, or maybe they wrote it a little bit too short and they had to stretch for time, so to speak, but it's good. Like, it's definitely very solid. Gameplay is something that I think is another issue for me where it's kind of a mixed bag. As were with most games, my biggest complaint usually comes down to navigation, and they did this right. It is almost impossible to get lost in this game unless you actually are trying to get lost, and you're trying to discover new things, which I love that, because that does encourage you to explore a little bit more. Also, the presentation, that 2.5 HD, 2D, 3D, it works really, really well in this game. So all of that's great, and the action RPG aspect of it is also pretty good. The problem being, I had issues with the fact that a lot of your button mapping had to do with where you were at, like your location. Because if you were in a certain area where there was fighting, then you could jump, then you could dash, and you could use your weapon. But if you weren't, and literally this could just be like the next room over, then your character couldn't do any of that stuff. I don't know, that just kind of annoyed me, because it really broke that like fourth wall and really broke immersion for me, being like, oh, okay, well now she can't jump, which is just, I don't know, it's weird. I don't understand why you turn that. I get turning off like the ability to just whack away at random people, but not to jump. Like, I don't know. That kind of broke immersion for me, as well as the controls while fighting were really good and spot on. But during the platforming aspects, things like the jump had quite a bit of a delay on it at times. It was weird. It was like when I needed it to work, it was usually okay, but there'd be some times where I was like exploring, I'd get right to the edge, hit the jump button, and she'd just fall off. Again, it was more annoying than it really like game breaking or anything, but it's just one of those aspects, just like the storytelling, where it's like, it's just so good, but just so, there's just like this little imperfection that I wish they would fix, or I wish was just a little bit different. But be that as it may, the gameplay is still great. fantastic. The combat is, I don't know, honestly, probably one of the biggest features for me of this game. I absolutely love the combat. Now, you have a regular sword, you have a heavy sword, and you have a gun. You can use these in different combinations, especially when you get into like the bigger battles or the more difficult enemies. They have a shield, so you got to use that big sword to kind of break that shield and then use other weapons to drain vitality. But there's even more than that, because your character has quite a bit of customization to it, as you can add on different skills, and one of them taking more of like a currency aspect, and then the other one almost taking like a rare little achievement bonus type thing that you'll get. They're a lot more rare, and they impact Anne in more substantial manner. Like, you can increase your strength, her health, things of that nature, as where the other aspect is just like your skills, widening the amount of moves you have, reload, things like that. Now, ultimately, I think the thing for me about this game that just really made me enjoy it more than anything was the atmosphere. The visuals, the audio, so good. Like, and it's hard to explain. I actually talked about this with Astral Chain, where there's just this environment, this world that just envelops you into this, I don't know, it's almost like this fantastical ability to take you away. And it does it really well because of things like the NPCs, the neon lights, the spotlights in the background, the day-night cycle. Even the loading screen is actually kind of cool. I just appreciate a lot about this game. Now, on the Switch, it does have a few little like performance issues. Nothing major, it's just that the frame rate should be capped at probably around 30. It does hit like pretty much a minimum of 30, which is nice, but the problem is when you go from like 50 to 35, it looks like it's lagging, but it's actually not. So if they just had capped it, probably have a little bit better performance, and maybe they will. But ultimately, I think that this game is definitely worth it. There's about 30 hours of gameplay. If I was to give it a ranking, I would say it's probably about a 7.5 out of 10. Like I said, I really appreciated a lot about this game. The only thing where it really fell off was the story for me. And it wasn't because the story wasn't engaging or interesting. It was just kind of sometimes hard to follow, and you would forget about certain aspects of it. Oh, and her little friend does kind of get annoying. She does have a buddy. You'll see if you play the game. She's kind of like a hacker who works on the outside, and you don't really see her as anything more than like an illusion. But God, she talks a lot. But yeah, she's kind of annoying. Not nearly as bad as some other characters. Something just to point out. If you are interested in the game, though, I would say check out the demo. There's a pretty lengthy demo of it on the eShop. It's definitely at least worth that. You know, if you don't want to just buy it out of nowhere, just at least like check out the demo, put in that time, and ultimately I think that most people are gonna be surprised by this game because it's a really good game. Anyway, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. Like always, I'm wishing you health, wealth, and above all, hope you're truly happy because you make me happy. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.